Alrighty, welcome to Wednesday Night Musical Osmosis, the reboot, the revamp, the rehashed, unrehearsed, re-education of recycled musical thoughts. Was that too much, Dee?
It was a little over the top, but that's okay.
I mean, I got about halfway through and I was like, well, fuck it, I'm invested now. I need to go all the way. Anyways, that voice you hear is our producer, hiding in the wings as always. D, the producer, or D redacted prizer, since Facebook made you take off the producer, because it's not your legitimate middle name.
Yeah, Facebook can kick my butt.
Indeed. And I, of course, am Nick the Saucy One Catsaurus, broadcasting to you live from the land of meth and honey, Caryville, Tennessee. You all know me from our other 500 shows on Ignorance Equation Radio. So we're back. Musical Osmosis is back.
Yes.
How do you feel?
Back again. My God, we've got so much stuff coming up. Like, I'm rewriting it out, and it's ridiculous. Okay, so this Sunday is going to be super duper awesome, and if you don't hate yourself, I think you'll make it through the show just fine. We are having, from the epic TV show Soap and the Tony Award-winning Broadway show, The Two and Only, the coolest ventriloquist probably, this side of Jeff Dunham, Mr. Jay Johnson, who is...
And that'll be on our Kettle of Fish show for people who are
That will be on Kettle of Fish, of course. And then next Wednesday, you guys have got Al Pist of The Pist, which is just awesomeness as well. And then we don't have a couple of shows until we come back for its Time Travel Weekend, which begins on Friday the 23rd with John Bass, formerly of Big Time Hollywood, Florida, on Comedy Central. But next month is having a new movie come out with Eliza Dushku called Jane Wants a Boyfriend.
Nice.
And he does have a title role. It's on IMDb if you want to check it out. Then following that up on Sunday, we are the 25th. We are having theoretical physicist and time travel machine maker, Professor Ronald Mallett. Then the 28th...
Whoa. Stop. Let me interject here real quick. One, Ignorance Equation will be airing that day too, and the four of us will be talking about time travel. And also, why are we doing a time travel weekend for those of you who may not know?
For anybody who's been living under a rock their entire lives, October 2015 happens to be the year that Marty in Back to the Future went Back to the Future 2. So when he arrived in the future, it was in October 2015. So, of course, we had to do a big fat kickoff to that.
October 21st, to be exact.
Yes. So there you go. And, yes, we will be discussing time travel on the Ignorance Equation that day. And then we'll get the really smart guy in. Everything that we actually don't know. Well, he is a theoretical physicist.
Yeah, he's got me. I've just watched a lot of Quantum Leap, so I don't think I can compete with him.
I don't think so. And then the 28th, which is another Musical Osmosis, of course, is going to be Larry Damore of Pegboy, which is also super awesome. And then Sunday, November 1st, who you may have recognized him on this season of America's Got Talent. He was a finalist. He is funny. He is Gary Beater. And that's going to be on our Catalyst Fish episode that day, and that's going to be really cool. Cannot wait to talk to him. Then on the 6th of November, we are going to have from Comedy Film Nerds, actor, comedian, and part of the documentary on podcasts called Earbuds, Mr. Graham Elwood. And then on the 8th, for Kettle of Fish, we are going to have comedian Trenton Willie. And the 13th, on Friday Night Drunken Trivia, we are having, we're starting the weekend of Rooftop Revolutionaries. And we're going to start that with Brian Marshall, who is from Rooftop Revolutionaries. And then on Sunday, we are having on the episode, on our panel, from Rooftop Revolutionaries, we are having Eleanor Goldfield. And then on Kettle of Fish...
Also from Act Out, too.
Oh, my bad. I had that written wrong. Yes, from Act Out and Rooftop Revolutionaries.
My last name, by the way, is Marshak. M-A-R-S-H-A-K. Not Marshall.
What did I write there? The K
Just to give him his correct props.
Yes. And then on Catalyst Fish that day, from White Mystery, we're having Alex White. And then we are going to end it all up with Friday Night Drunken Trivia on the 20th with comedian Cyrus McQueen. And that will be our final episode of the year until our end of the year send-off show.
Right. We'll still do a music show. We're still doing a music show every other Wednesday, and we might do a trivia.
Yeah, well, everything else is pretty nice.
But, yeah.
We really need to put a schedule up on the website.
Yeah, it'll be really
It's
sporadic.
too much to go through. No, it's just too much to go through. We've got so much crap going on. It's insane. I can't believe we have so many awesome guests coming up.
Yes, we have been very lucky, and I'm very, very excited, especially about Sunday. I'm going to probably have to wear a diaper so I don't pee myself during the interview as I'm fanboying out on Jay Johnson from my all-time favorite sitcom, all-time favorite TV show, Soap. Are you ready to rescend back into shadows so we can start our music show? Oh, by the way, guys, if anybody wants to call to welcome us back or to welcome our new co-host, the phone number here, please, Dee, for people to call in.
Of course. The number here is 646-478-3554. And if it takes me just a minute, it's because I'm AFK, but I will try to get back ASAP.
All right, sir.
So I will talk to you all again on Sunday.
Sweet. Thanks, Dee. Okay, so the intro music was a song called Alone from The Fallen One. And coincidentally, tonight's new co-host, and he will be an ongoing co-host, my new co-host, as long as we're doing this show, hopefully, he is never alone because he has a beautiful wife, 3 awesome kids. He resides from Baltimore, Maryland, and he is also from The Fallen One, Mr. ODell Norman. ODell, you are here now.
What's going on?
What is happening? Welcome to Musical Osmosis.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, man. This is really awesome.
It is, man. It's really cool to have you on the show. I love working with people, especially people like awesome people, but people I've known for so long. I've known you, and this is going to make us feel fucking old, but I've known you over 20 years. A lot of the listeners tuning in today, that kind of tuning in to welcome you to the show. A lot of our friends have known you forever. But for the people who don't know ODell Norman, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you for all the new listeners?
Well, like you said, I live in Baltimore now. I've been here since '04. Officially from the good old city of Waldorf, Pomfret area, if you will, the 20675 region. We met at, oh my gosh, was it 95?
94.
95? Yeah, 90. 94. Yeah. Wow. Yep.
The OE days, Old English days.
Old E days. Oh my goodness.
And I don't mean antebellum, like historical Old English. I mean 40s.
Like 40, yeah. We're not that old, but no, but yeah, we hit it off, and we started playing. You were the first band that I was ever in. You, me, and Sergio, and then
that really called the band.
Ben Story was on there for a little bit, but yeah, man, it was good old government cheese, man.
Indeed.
And
gotta get some cheese.
Gotta get it. And then we're practicing at my parents' house. Man, God, awful hours of the night, and for some reason they didn't mind it. But
yeah, your parents were awesome. I don't know how they dealt with it. My dad wouldn't let us play within 40 blocks of him.
Thank God for earplugs, man.
Yeah. Amen.
But yeah, went on from there and played in, of course, Onus and our Kid Dynamite / Onus, with Sergio and Andy Dorsey and Dave Knight, and did that for a whole bunch of years, and then the Fallen One after that. So fortunate enough.
And there was a little pocket in there where you did drum for Even Steven as well.
Yes, and Even Steven. I was like the residential drummer. Like if something went down and So no, but that was awesome. That was my first touring experience was with Even Steven. So that was quite the journey there, man.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot in Kutztown. I think we kind of came of age in Kutztown. They should make a documentary about how me and you came of age on that tour to Kutztown, playing that bed and breakfast.
Oh my goodness! I just remember the owners. They had no clue what they were getting themselves into. Started playing. I said, was it FDA and
Tapeworm Love? Yes.
Good old Adam Thorne. He's up here now. He's up in Baltimore now. So,
right on. We'll have to get him on the show one day.
Oh yeah, he's. I'll have to. I know he's in a band, and I can't remember the name of him right now, but I'll definitely shoot a note out to him. But I know he's been up here for a handful of months, if not maybe a year or so. But he's been up here for a little bit now. So.
Well, speaking of playing music, you still play music, and I was wondering this. I can't believe we've never had this conversation. Are you playing with any intent now of becoming successful at it, or is this just like, I'm 40 now, so I'm just playing for the pure joy of playing? Or is there still something in the back of your mind, I could go on tour?
No, there's no touring, especially with a wife and 3 kids, at this stage. But, I think our intent now is just to play a couple shows here and there, maybe play a couple of festivals that they have around here. We get together usually it's every other week, every other Friday, if you will, and there's we're older now, so another person in the band, Chris, who was actually in the Fallen one too. He has a son as well, so our time is taken up with the family life now, but. Fortunately, I have a wonderful wife who lets me still get to go out and be a kid here and there. So
yeah, you can't do this without a cool woman. I couldn't be doing the show if I didn't have an excellent wife. You couldn't be doing what you're doing. It is all about the women that's behind us.
Exactly. So she knows that's my creative creative outlet, and she lets me do that a couple times a week. So it's really nice.
Right on. So I was talking to you earlier this week, and I was like, maybe this is because we're in our 40s now and I'm comfortable in my own skin, but we've really gone from Rocky out there in the ring punching to Mickey behind the sidelines, kind of like spewing out our experience and expertise, and you had one-upped me and said Mr. Miyagi. And that's true, right? I mean, all the listeners out there that are 20, all the millennials are a bunch of little Daniel sons to us now, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, when you're at work and you're talking about, you mention a show or you mention a band or something, and they're like, I don't know that. You're like, oh my gosh, I am old.
Wow. So being
but,
somebody who has toured, been in the studio a bunch of times, have played with fairly recognized bands, have interacted with a lot of people in the music biz, what advice do you have for the millennials coming up playing music? I mean, because it's all white noise, right? I mean, you make a video and you stick it up on YouTube, you self-produce it, put it up on YouTube or put your music up on a site. It's good where it's so accessible, but you're also competing with literally, I mean, the pool of what kids are competing with today compared to what we were competing with, because who wants to put down the bong when they're 19 and go pound the pavement and put flyers on telephone poles? We had a lot less competition. We had a lot less access, but we had a lot less competition. Is that better now that there's more access, even though it's all kinds of blends into just white noise? Or is it worse because you're not having to earn it like you used to have to earn it? I mean, I used to sit there in my living room on my landline and call clubs and mail out CDs that I stuck the stickers on them and put the album covers together and shit. Was that better?
I think I think it's a give and take. I think the access that bands have nowadays, like when I stopped playing, when the Fallen one ended, it was mid-2007, so MySpace was the big thing, and that made it so much easier to get to play with bands outside of your area, because you always had bands that were touring, and they would go and check out how many shows your band has, or if they could get on a bill because you're playing around the same time that they need to play. So from that standpoint, we were able to play with bands, from Houston, from California, from overseas, which is, probably something that we wouldn't have been able to do if it was back in the 90s or whatever, where, you know, it was just flyers, you know, around, you know, Southern Maryland or in D.C. or whatever at whatever.
Yeah, we played a show with the Pee Wees, I think, before you were in the band or back in the band the fifth time or however. There's so many drummers I can't keep track. But the Pee Wees were from Italy, and we met them online. And they came over here.
I
played
remember that
Food
show,
for Thought. Yeah.
Food for Thought, yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
that would have never been
things.
possible, like, before MySpace and all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's so it's a give and take, because I know, like, with Onus and the Fallen one, you know, the internet was just starting to kick in, so but we still had to go out and flyer. We still had to go out and promote our show manually as well as, you know, electronically. And so we still had the best of both worlds, if you will. But nowadays, I mean, you can, man, it's so, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like you can make a really good video with home equipment. You can make a really good album with home equipment now. On your phone. I mean, the best pictures come out on your phone now, and you can do that and put it up, and you know, you put it out there, and hey, you know, you get 50,000 likes in a couple of weeks if it's good, and then all of a sudden you have a record company interested in you, or I mean, you've seen all the. So it works both ways. I still think.
Yeah, but it's not even worth going to a label anymore, right? I mean, you're better off.
No. I don't think so. I mean, and I think for a lot of the smaller labels, the main thing is just getting on the bigger labels is for distribution. If anything else, that's it. It's pretty much like, and that's what I think the larger labels are doing now. They just go and they're like, hey, we'll help you distribute your band stuff, instead of, hey, we'll take you in and you make a major label album and we give you a whole set of money and then this, that, and this and that. Now it's like, oh, wow, you've already sold this many copies, or you have this many downloads, or heck, and even some terms, you know, you have this many ringtones. And it's like, and that's the tough thing I think about. I think that's the one thing that a lot of bands do miss. And I know we'll talk about a couple bands tonight that they still do, is that they make great albums. A lot of bands don't make great albums. A lot of bands, you know, have a couple songs, they put it out, and then, you know, because nowadays you don't have to make a great album. You can have a couple songs that are really good, and those people are going to download those songs. They don't have to buy the whole album to get the songs that they want. But I think the art of making a great album, I think, you know, at least for the mainstream bands that are out now, I don't know if that's really the case. It's more like, okay, you just get that hit for us.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy is I was reading an interview with Sebastian Bach from Skid Row, and I guess he's back with Skid Row, and he's like, I was listening to him do an interview. I think it was on Dee Snider's show or Chris Jericho's show. It was something on Podcast One, and he was talking about how he's got like 50, 60,000 fans, or it might have been more than that. It might have been like 100,000 fans on his Facebook, yet his album only sold like 11,000 copies. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But then he said something crazy to me. He's like, later on the show, he said, we're 19th on the Billboard, our album broken at 19. And I'm thinking, your fucking album broken at 19 with 11,000 sales?
Yeah, dude, if you go on Billboard and look at some of the album sales, if it's not somebody like I don't know, like a Nicki Minaj or Drake or somebody like that, album sales are crazy low. I mean, they're like low, and you're like, but the thing is, those companies take those album sales and like, well, we have the number one album on Billboard, and then you go and actually look at how many they sold, and it's only like 20,000. You're like, man, geez, that's not a lot.
I mean, what would it take you to break into the top 20 when we were kids, when we were young, like in the 90s? It would have took like hundreds of thousands of albums sold to break into the top 20, right?
Easily,
I mean, I haven't researched the numbers, but I mean, that was shocking. I was like, you sold 11,000 albums and broke the top 20? How is that even possible?
And then the way the genres are broken up now, too, there's so many different genres. It's like you have, I can't even keep up, because sometimes I get stuff on you know, I'll like a particular magazine or something, and they have so many different genres of music that's broken up into subgenres that are broken up into another subgenre, and you're like, okay, I can't keep up with it. Whatever happened to, I know alternative was alternative, and punk was punk and metal was metal, and R&B was R&B.
When Helmet came out with short hair and said we're metal, that was the end of genres. They fucked it all up.
They were like, shit.
I remember when that video came out, I think I was hanging out at Jason Netherton's house, and they world premiered the new Helmet. I guess they had an album out before, and I didn't know who they were. Yeah. And the guys come out, and they kind of like have army jackets on and like khaki-looking pants and short hair. And I was like, who are these guys? They don't have long hair. What? This isn't metal. And that was really started, and then you saw grunge breaks shortly after that, and that just blew open the doors of what,
you know. You remember, I mean, look at the time when, for example, when Nirvana was on Headbangers Ball. You know, it was like, it didn't go. It was like, wow, Nirvana, okay, you know, had Nirvana, probably my favorite band ever, and it was like, they're not metal, but you know what, that was the thing, that was the only outlet at that time. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, 120 minutes and all that stuff was there, but it wasn't as prominent. But once, like they took off, and then of course, 9 Inch Nails really, really took off, and then all these other, like Alice in Chains. People forget Alice in Chains was out well before Nirvana was out. I was like a sophomore in high school when Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and all those bands came out, and people just sort of just was like, oh yeah, that's a band from Seattle. They're pretty cool. But then all of a sudden it was like, Nirvana came out and broke it big, and then all of a sudden everybody was like, when, Kurt Cobain or, Dave Grohl or Chris Novoselic spoke, and they were like, well, we listened to a lot of the Pixies, or, Kurt Cobain was wearing a Soundgarden T-shirt in an interview, and then all of a sudden their album sales took off because that's what those guys were wearing, or that's what those guys were listening to. So everybody was like, because what's the band? That Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age was in initially, Creus, or I forgot what they were called. It started with a K.
I'm not sure. Creus, was it a grunge band?
Yeah, they were like a heavy metal. They were like heavy, but they played with Nirvana, and I never forget watching a little documentary on. It was the Foo Fighters documentary, or not the Foo Fighters, but the thing they did on HBO, Sonic Highway. And when they did the Seattle episode, they were talking about how, Dave Grohl had mentioned Josh Homme's band on an interview. And then all of a sudden their band sold like 20-some thousand copies within the next week. Just because, Dave Grohl from Nirvana said, yeah, you need to check this band out. They're really good. This is what we're listening to. And all of a sudden it was like, everybody was like, oh, let's get it, so.
Yeah, and I mean, that's how it works. I mean, we come from a town that's known primarily because that's where Good Charlotte comes from, and I don't want to go down the Good Charlotte rabbit hole, but watching those kids grow up and then kind of make it into millionaires, and you saw the process that they went through and how they kind of had the money back in them and all the ends when other people were really out there struggling and sweating for it. So, I mean, a lot of times it's not fair, but, I'm of the school of thought that creativity is so broad. Like, even Steven never made it, but then since I've got that creativity burning in me, I was like, okay, well, now I'm going to do this thing. That thing didn't work. Like, I was writing for a while. Now I'm doing the radio shows. Right place, right time. That's clicking. And now I have something that I can maybe parlay into something else up the road. And I've had some opportunities from it. I mean, I just went up to New York over the summer and did a podcast that's on the Nerdist Network. So it's not like these things don't lead to other things. And it's kind of, that's the new world. You just have to do things, hope they lead to other things, and just keep meeting people and talking to people. And then once people are like, I kind of heard your name back there somewhere, so yeah, you must be legit. And then other people get involved, and you build a little community or get involved in a community. Then you're kind of like building your own product or building your own name recognition. And then you can kind of break through, not that it's about money or anything like that, but everybody dreams of doing what they love for a living.
Everybody dreams big, you dream big, but it's like the reality, when you get into it is, I know in the fall when we were fortunate to sign to a couple small labels, and but it was like the work increased. It was like even harder, like once we signed, because it was like, okay, so-and-so has this set up, so you guys need to play here, or all the legal issues and all the kind of stuff. So it didn't get easier, but and that's a whole nother topic. But it's like, you just got to keep working at it. If you really believe in it, and, as much as, the bands that make it are the ones that that really, really are the ones that, they believe in it. But it takes everybody too. It's just about one or two people can carry, the whole load. It's got to be.
I learned that lesson. You've got to be a unit, man. You can't drag people kicking and screaming. Yep. And I think that was the big problem with even Steven's demise is, everybody was kind of reaping the benefit, but I was putting in a lot of the work as far as the promoting and getting the gigs. I booked all our gigs, and I wrote all our songs, and everybody was kind of reaping that benefit, but I don't feel like the workload was equal. But, I mean, everybody was happy to be there.
You threw 2 festivals, man.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
threw 2 festivals, and you think about it, you threw 2 festivals from
actually 3
a week. Yeah, actually 3. And then you threw them basically from. You think about it, how it went from us playing at Heisman's and the comic book store to doing festivals. I mean, it was like I not too long ago. I remember I was talking to Serge before he left, and I was like, man, you remember one summer we were literally at Heisman every Saturday night. Didn't realize it until we actually was like, because somebody was playing or we were playing.
Right.
Or somebody we knew was playing, or so it was like every weekend we were at Heisman, and then on Sundays, it was like we were at the comic book store with watching the show. And I remember doing that in college, like going either playing at the comic book store or going to a show there, and then literally leaving there and going back up to Frostburg, that night to go to class on Monday. So it was
we were quite hardy back then, weren't we? I couldn't do that shit today.
No.
We were pretty resilient in those days. All right, we got to move on to our little homework assignment, but real quick.
Yeah, man.
You being somebody who is very experienced, more knowledgeable about music and more experienced than I am. Even Steven ran a couple years. You've been playing in professional bands forever. What advice do you have to the younger generation? What are the pitfalls? What should they look out for? What should they focus on?
This
is your Miyagi moment.
Okay, this is it. Okay, I got Daniel by the fence, and I'm giving him the paintbrush. So it's like, you got to breathe in and breathe out. But the number one thing is I would tell a band, you got to treat it like a relationship. You can't have a couple people doing one thing and a couple people doing another thing, and then no one's talking to each other. You got to treat it like a relationship. You got to communicate. You got to keep those lines open at all times, no matter how tense it gets. If somebody doesn't have money, if somebody, can't afford to do this or do this, somebody has to have that person's back so they don't feel like, they're left out or something like that. 2, if you're hungry, just stay focused. That's the only thing you can do what you want to do. That's what I always said. Like with the Fallen one, we took it as far as I think we could, because at the time that we were really, really playing and playing hard, everybody was focused on that goal. And, we were fortunate enough to play, South by Southwest twice. We got to, play with a lot of bands that we looked up to. We got to, open for them or, play a couple shows with them here and there. And that was because we were focused on that, and that was our focus. And that's the advice I would give people. Like, there's going to be times where it's going to be a lull, where you're not going to have a show, where it's going to be tough to get a show, things of that nature. But you just gotta bulldoze your way through it and stay focused. And I think nowadays it's a lot easier too to get shows than it was. Back in the day, you go up and give a CD to somebody, or you'd have to go up there during their booking hours, and usually it was like, okay, and then we'll call you. But nowadays there's some clubs like the Outer Bar over here. You can sign a gig request form online and actually send your stuff and a link to Facebook or whatever your music's to, and they can just check it from online and they'll get back with you. So if you stay focused and keep those lines of communication open between each other, there shouldn't be a problem.
And one more thing I would add in my short little tenure as being in a semi-professional band is if you feel yourself being static, if you feel like you guys are playing the same 9 songs over and over again and the creative juices aren't flowing, like, don't be afraid to burn it to the ground. and start all over.
No.
Scrap everything, start all over, fresh perspective, move the drum set to the other fucking side of the room so you have a different perspective. Just shake it up. Don't be like, oh, we are so invested in these 3 really popular songs. We have to build the whole foundation of what we're doing on that.
It's about you. That's the one thing. You know, the bands that really, like, for example, I always use this example when I talk to people about bands. It's like, you look at a band like Radiohead, and then you look at a band, and I'm not trying to knock anybody, but if you look at a band like Sugar Ray, when Radiohead and Sugar Ray came out, they were both really, really good bands. Sugar Ray, a lot of people don't realize, but like their first album was very hard. It was very hard and aggressive. And then they had the hit, you know, Fly or whatever that song was. They had that hit. And then after that, it was like every freaking song that they made sounded like that song.
Same thing happened with The Offspring.
Yeah, and it was like, no, this is not, keep doing what you're doing. Radiohead, they come out with OK Computer, which is arguably you can argue that's one of the greatest albums ever. And basically those guys almost had a nervous breakdown from doing that album. And then they come back and they're like, how are we going to top that album? Not just a song, but a whole album. And then they come back and they top it, but they go in a totally different direction. Just like you said, they basically were like, you know what? We're done this. We'll do a little electronic mixed in with dub stuff and more noise, crazy stuff. But it's their stuff. They believed in it. And people, I remember critics were like, well, this doesn't sound like, OK Computer. Well, it shouldn't have to sound like OK Computer. If you want OK Computer, just listen to it. So It's like, this band is doing, but they literally said, I remember reading an interview with them, and they were like, we literally had a nervous breakdown from doing that album. So we had to literally scrap everything that we did and come with something completely new. And you see where they are.
It takes guts. All right, well, let's move on to our musical homework assignment. What I did, and I don't know if we're going to keep doing this. I guess it depends on the feedback and if we can wedge it in between interviews with other bands or maybe. I don't know how any of this is going to work. I don't even know how the timing of all this is going to work because we haven't done a music show in a couple years. But I wrote you and I was like, hey, give me 3 bands you really like you don't think I would have ever heard of. I'll send you 3 bands that I really like I think you never heard of. Mm-hmm. And I think the results ended up good. I think we found some new music, which I was sweating bullets. Because I was like, how the fuck am I going to stump ODell? He knows every band from every corner of this planet. And I was actually shocked. You never heard of the Orwells. How is this possible?
No, I didn't. I don't know if I missed them or I didn't know of them. And you sent me their songs, and I was like, man, this band is really, really good. I knew the other bands that I knew. Once you told me who the main guy was from, I was like, oh yeah, I know that band.
Yeah, Vinny Paz is from Jedi Mind Trick.
From a Jedi Mind Trick. I was like, oh yeah, I know their stuff. I love their stuff. But this band is like really, really, really good. So.
And had you heard of Introspect? Because they're another band that I'm really swinging right now.
Yeah, I like them a lot too. Like I've heard them a few times on when I don't have it anymore, but when I had satellite radio, they used to play a lot of their stuff on like the Faction station. And then what's his name? Marky Ramone had his own show, Punk Rock Blitzkrieg, and he used to play them a lot on his show as well. So I knew them as well because it was cool because on the radio when their song and name comes up, it comes up just like the way you sent it to me in the email. So I was like, it stood out. So I was like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, with the 5 in the middle.
Yep.
All righty. Well, let's play some Orwells, and then we'll kind of break it down. And you kind of told us what you thought about it, but let me play the song that you had said, hey, this is a song I want to hear on the show from the Orwells, the one that really spoke to you. Let's play "Let It Burn" by the Orwells, and we'll be back in about 3 minutes to kind of dissect this.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Hi, how are you? So he can't play the whole thing because we're running out of time. So, ODell, what do you think about it?
Oh, I think it's really good.
I thought it was pretty cool.
I like the whole. They remind me a lot of like the Stooges, and like the singer reminds me. He has a Jim Morrison type voice, very.
Oh yeah. Yeah, a little
dark a little bit, but they remind me a lot of the Stooges and like the Strokes, this type of band. So.
Saucy, why do you like it?
And they're so young. They are young.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. I don't know. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties, so I'm kind of stepping in for Nick here in a second.
Oh, okay. I know.
Hey. Could you not hear me?
No.
I can hear you now.
Oh,
yes.
The whole time I thought you guys could hear me.
No, that's why I jumped in.
Oh, well, thank you for saving my ass. That would have been embarrassing. Actually, I wasn't even talking. That was totally scripted. Nothing to see here. Move along. What? Thank you, Dee. See what I'm talking about, Adele? Where would we be without our women? No. What was it about the Orwells that kind of spoke to you directly? Like, did you like them right off the bat, or did you have to listen to them a couple times?
No, well, the video grabbed me. The first video grabbed me. The images, I was like, whoa, okay. But they really reminded me. Like I'm a big Iggy Pop fan, so they remind me a lot of like the Stooges, like their sound, like it's just straightforward, they have the layering to it, like a lot of the Chicago bands do, but it's just very straightforward. And then it was funny because when I first heard the song, I didn't see the video, because I thought they were like older guys. And then I'm looking at them and I'm like, man, these guys are kids. Like, there's some young. So
does that make you feel like, give you energy and feel rejuvenated, or does that make you feel like, damn, I'm old?
Well, both. I think it was both, but it was like I was reading their bio, and I'm like, man, they went to high school and graduated early so they could go out and like tour, So,
yeah, that's amazing.
That you can give big kudos to the parents from that. So.
Oh, yeah, and that's a big piece of it. It's not like back in the day when I played in punk bands and we all came from dysfunctional, messed up homes, so it didn't matter. Like now, you have to kind of be tech savvy and have your head really firmly screwed onto your shoulders to be able to put out quality music. It isn't like a bunch of guys get drunk in a garage and then just kind of say, I'm going to play at this shithole, and some of my drunk friends are going to come out. Like, you really have to step up your game now if you want to distinguish yourself from the other billion people out there trying to do this thing.
Well, the crazy thing is, too, is like it's funny because a lot of the, like, I guess the indie bands now, the sound is so different from them. And so it's like, but I'm like, for us, it's like, oh, this is a cool sound because this is sort of the stuff that we listen to. But for the, the audience now, this is different. This is like, oh man, they're playing guitars and they're jumping around on stage and doing silly stuff. It's not all, keyboard centric and looking all sad and everything. So, I really like them though. And they got a little cockiness to them too, man. I've seen a couple of interviews, man. They are not ones to bite their tongues on if they like music or don't like music. Yeah, it's really good.
Music needs right now. Music needs a little bit of guts, needs a little bit of piss and vinegar in it.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think so. Anyways, okay, you sent me some bands, and the band that I picked out of all of those was the Screaming Females. How did these cats come on your radar? Because I had never heard of them.
Ryan Taylor. I played drums with him in the band that we jam out with on Fridays with Chris and Andy Dorsey. And we at the end of practice, like a lot of people do, we sit around and we just start throwing music at each other, and we go on YouTube and check out their stuff. And he was like, "Oh man, you got to check out this band, Screaming Females. They do a cover of Shake It Off." And I was like, Taylor Swift song? He was like, yeah, and I did not know what to expect. And then I watched it, and I was like, holy cow, this band is really, really good. They're so good that, like, my kids are 6, 2, and today 4 months, actually, for Lola.
Wow.
And Yeah, and Lily and Linus know Taylor Swift. Like they see her songs on the little kid shows or commercials, Kids Bop and all that stuff. But when I played them the rock version, like there's times where it's just me and Linus, and he'll be like, "Hey, Dad, can you play Shake It Off or whatever?" And I'll go on my phone and I'll find it for him, and I'll put on the Taylor Swift one. He's like, "No, I want the one where the girl's like screaming." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Nice.
And so I'm like, "Wow, okay." If you can grab a 6-year-old's attention and be like him remembering that song in that version of it, you're saying something.
And I mean, that means a lot, too, when you think about music and your kids. Like in the old days, your parents could, like, bust into a locked bathroom and see you there doing a line of coke and freak out. But now it's like you bust into a bathroom and see your kid listening to emo. And it's like, where did we go wrong? What happened? It's totally different. All right, let me play Empty Head, which is a song that I really liked. I only got a chance to listen to 4 or 5 of their songs, but it's the one that really grabbed me. I'll play a couple minutes of this. And then we will discuss, class.
Cool.
So there we go. I mean, it grabbed me basically because it's bass heavy. I'm a bassist. It's really a driving song. Her voice, which I don't know the name of the singer, I really should have came prepared with at least her name.
Paternoster, she is incredible.
Yeah,
she's like maybe 5 feet tall. And a little tidbit on them, she also does the artwork for their albums. And like some of the videos, especially the more recent videos, she's done the artwork and the camera stuff for their videos as well too. So
right on. And I mean, that's another thing too, is these kids are getting involved in every aspect of the music, where in our day we just kind of showed up and played. I mean, I was an anomaly because I was booking shows and had a club for a short time down in Norfolk, and I was like, I want to get my hands in many pies as possible to try to make this thing work, because I was serious. But I mean, usually back in our day, you just like showed up drunk, played your set, and then went home, and didn't really think much beyond that, right?
Yeah. And for them, they are so like they're so what I listened to back in the day. So that's what really grabbed me about them. I was like, man, they're guitar heavy. They're like woman fronted, which I always love, and like They embrace like the punk roots. Like I actually just watched a little documentary on them, and like one part of it, they were in D.C. and she was like, "This is like one of my favorite cities." They're from Jersey, and this is one of my favorite cities to be in. And they got to go to the Discord house, and they hung out with Ian Mackay and got to see the basement and all that stuff. And she was just like in hog heaven, man. She was just like, "This is so awesome! Oh my God, I can't believe that we got to hang out." And so.
And kids are more open-minded about music now, right? I mean, they're not just like, I'm punk rock, that's it. I'm metal, that's it. Like, everybody's crossing genre, which is a good thing.
Really good. Yeah, there's and down the road we'll get into them more. There's a band from Baltimore that I've started listening to, Piano Turns Into Teeth, and they were like a hardcore band, but if you were to listen to them now, their stuff, Piano Becomes Team, their stuff is not like that anymore, but it's like really good. And I'm like, man, you know, because they're getting played on like the college radio station up here, and I was like, who is this band? And all of a sudden he said the name. I was like, they were like a hardcore band one time, but you know, no, they're crossing all over. And like I said with Screaming Females, like not only are their songs excellent, but their covers are really good too. Like Shake It Off is a really good cover, but she does a cover with Garbage. Like they do, it's Screaming Females and Garbage.
I didn't even know they were still around.
Yeah, and they do what's the song? Because the Night.
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
Who is it? Is it Bruce Springsteen song? Because the Night?
No, it's the I don't want to say it. It's like, you know, because the night belongs.
Yeah, I know the song, but isn't it originally Bruce Springsteen? I think it was a Bruce Springsteen song.
Oh, was it? I'm not sure, but yeah.
Because the Night, 1978.
There you go. But between Shirley Manson and Marissa from Screaming Females, there are vocals on it, and then she's like a sick guitar player too. I think a lot of people don't realize that from Screaming Females. She's singing and playing guitar like that at the same time. So like if you listen to that cover, it's like wow.
Well, I'm glad that women are taken more seriously in rock now too, because they've added a whole new dimension to the music you didn't see 20 years ago. I mean, a band like Bikini Kill, that was unusual, you know, and they weren't even taken seriously within their own community. And now you see these women who are really stepping it up. They've really broken through, and it's just added another layer to just music, rock music in general.
Yeah, and you know, if you look at them, man, Screaming Females, they play with everybody. They played with bands, you know, they were touring with Garbage for a while. They toured with Dinosaur Jr., Ted Leo and the Pharmacist, all the way to like harder bands like, you know, Just the Brotherhood, I think they played with. So they cover the gamut, man. They don't, you know, like you said, they're not ones to just you know, label themselves as one thing and then stick with that one thing. They're all over the spectrum. And another really cool thing about them is they love to tour. Like I was watching the thing, they were like basically it was like, why do we make music and if we're not going to play it out? So, you know, they'll tour forever. Like they just get in the van and go. And it was really cool. You know, I mean, and you know, they've done like 6 albums, I think, something like that. You know, so
wow.
They put out the albums too, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely have to pay more attention to them. So we're almost out of time. Next Wednesday, we're going to be back with Al Pist from the Pist. Honestly, the reason I brought this show back was, and I'll tell this story more in depth, I'm sure, next week, but the reason I brought this show back was just basically to speak with Al Pist. And I tried to reach him. He didn't really have a website to reach him through or a Twitter. He was on Facebook, but he had his profile set up where you couldn't, if you message him, it went to spam, so he was never going to see it. And he didn't have an add button, so you couldn't add him. So I always check in, like every 2 or 3 months, I check in on his page. Hey, I wonder if I can reach Al Pist yet. And finally, he had it set up so you could add him. I added him. He accepted it. I wrote him. And I was like, well, I'm bringing back Musical Osmosis because he's my favorite lyricist. And I'm a guy that's much more driven by lyrics than music. I mean, of course, the music has to be there. I have to feel it. But if the lyrics are shit, I don't care how good the music is. If the music is mediocre and the lyrics are there, and I mean, he's such a straightforward writer. Are you familiar? Do you got a lot of background with the Pist, or just kind of a passing fancy with them?
Just more of a passing fancy. I've been since you were telling me about them, I've been like going back and doing more research on them. But yeah, their lyrics are his lyrics are pretty intense though.
Yeah, and luckily, I think this is where, you know, I'm not a big everything happens for a reason type of guy, but I do think that there's a certain order of the universe. And at that same time, I looked up the singer of Peg Boy. I looked up Larry's profile, and that was resourceable too. And I booked him. And I mean, I would have never, I don't want to say I never would have got into punk rock, but the first punk tape I ever heard was Peg Boy's Strong Reaction. Yeah. And I've told that show before. how I basically, Pat Sheehan played it for me, and I had just met Pat, and he's like, well, what do you listen to? And I'm like, I listen to like Skid Row and Warrant and Dio, and I mean well, not Warrant, but I'm saying some of those metal bands were good fans in their own right, like Iron Maiden and stuff, and I've had a couple metal bands on the show before, but he played that Strong Reaction without all the glam and fireworks and guitar wanking, and basically I went home and took all my tapes, if you could believe I had tapes. I took all my tapes and I threw them in a closet. I was like, screw this shit. And I just went out and started gobbling up punk rock tapes. So having my favorite lyricists back to back with the band that kind of started it all for me going down the punk road, I mean, the only thing else could happen is Fat Mike from NoFX could surprise me and call in. And then I would probably orgasm all over the place and drop dead with a perma smile on my face. Like, it couldn't get any better than doing a pissed interview back-to-back with a Pegboy interview. I couldn't be any more excited. Anyways, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm Pegboy. Yeah, they're one of my all-time favorites. So when you said you were getting them one, I was like, oh man, yeah, and their tie, I mean, because their ties with Naked Ray Gun, all that stuff, man. They go back, dude. Oh, it's great.
All right, well, this was our first episode. I dubbed it a reboot, and it's funny because I was thinking reboot, and I'm thinking like all the stupid, well, not stupid Marvel movies. A lot of them are good, but I think it's dumb when they do the reboots. And there's always an English guy playing the role now in these reboots of like Spider-Man and stuff. And I was like, man, do I need to get an English host, like an English co-host, because this is a reboot? Because this is kind of like this. Do you feel like this is a reboot, a totally new thing? What are we doing here?
I think it's. I mean, hopefully, with the stuff that we're doing and the new ideas, it won't be more of a reboot, but like a new type of show.
I hope so, man. All righty. Well, we're going to
reimagining.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Do we have to get all like squiggly and blurry, like we're having a dream sequence here?
No, it's like the new Poltergeist is a reimagining of the same story.
Oh, yeah, well, reimagined are always total crap. All right, so we're going to end with my old band, Even Steven. We are lucky enough to squeeze one album out, and actually, who's in Iron Boss? Is it? We had Mike. Mike was the one from Phase who produced our album, and I guess Bruce is the one that's in Iron Boss, right?
Yeah.
Did I got that right? I'm trying to resource my memory here. It was so long ago. But I had asked you, I was like, hey, what Even Steven song do you want me to play to close the show with? And you said FBI Guy. Why is that your favorite Even Steven song?
I don't know. It's just, I love playing it. That was one. Two, the lyrics are catchy. So, I'm sort of like you. I like good lyrics, and playing the drums, that was a fun song to play. Just build up and then going back into the the fast pace and stuff. So that was always one of my favorites to play.
D, are you still with us? You hiding back there behind the curtain?
Yeah.
Our little producer Oz here.
Pay no attention to the woman behind the curtain.
What'd you guys think? What'd you guys think? Are we back? Is Musical Osmosis back? Are we making magic?
Sure.
All righty, fair enough. I want to thank everybody who checked it out. Please spread the word. I know I ask a lot of my fans. I know we're running 4 podcasts, radio shows, whatever you want to tag them. I just call them podcasts. I know we're running 4 different podcasts right now, so maybe I'm killing you guys with too much content. I don't know. But, hit us up on me or ODell's page or Dita Producer's page or on our Musical Osmosis page and let us know what you think. Let us know if you guys have any suggestions. I'm always open to suggestions. I'm always trying to make the show better. In fact, we got some feedback that the Friday show, 2 hours, was too long to listen to an online drunken trivia show. So we're cutting it back to an hour now, just 15 questions instead of 21. So, I take these seriously. I mean, this is everybody's show. I know I'm directing traffic here, but this is everyone's show. I want everybody to enjoy it. I always say it. I'll say it again. Is on the way out the door. The show's only as good as the guests that we have on, and it's only as successful as the fans allow us to be. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. We'll see you next Wednesday with Al Pissed from the Pissed, and this Sunday, check out Kettle of Fish. We're on an hour special, 5 to 6, with Jay Johnson from Soap. Bye, guys. Here's FBI Guy from Even Steven, my old band.
Peace.